We have a travel warning about passport scams and fake vacation offers tonight. They can happen during the planning stages of your trip or even while you're already in the hotel. Tammy Elliott explains what to watch for in a Consumer First Alert.
The Wisconsin Better Business Bureau is warning about a rise in vacation-related scams, from bogus booking sites to fake rental listings and phony passport websites. Some people report to the BBB online scam tracker paying hundreds of dollars and never getting a passport. You're looking right here at the official government website, and there's a warning about those copycat passport websites. Lisa Schiller, Senior Director of Investigations for the Wisconsin BBB, says passport scams have increased sharply in recent months.
All of that personal information, name, address, date of birth, social security number, people don't think twice about submitting that information, and nobody knows whose hands it's ending up in, and that leaves you ripe for identity theft.
The BBB warning about the top 5 vacation scams: rental listings for properties that don't exist. Schiller said scammers use pressure tactics to rush payments. Number 2, free vacations. Make sure you read the fine print and watch for add-on fees. Third-party booking sites. The BBB says they receive reports posing as major airlines or online ticket brokers. And hotel scams, like a call to your hotel room impersonating the front desk, asking to verify credit card information, and timeshare resale cons, paying up front to someone calling, claiming to be an agent. Schiller says the internet has changed the risk landscape for travelers.
The internet makes everything so much easier. It also makes the things a little bit more dangerous as well.
So we want to share some quick tips to help you avoid these vacation scams. Do your research before you're booking. Be skeptical of incredible deals, the one that's too good to be true. Make sure you're reading reviews and look for secure, legitimate websites. And pay with a credit card. If there's an issue, you can dispute those charges. Tammy Elliott, Action 2 News.